Hey everyone, it's Isabella Coleman, and I'm about to share the moment my world imploded. Picture this. I'm 31, sitting in a buzzing Seattle cafe, mid-meeting with a client, when my laptop pings. It's an email from my dad, David Coleman, the man I built an empire with. The subject line? Your role at Coleman Property Tech. I open it, and my heart stops. Isabella. The board terminated your role effective immediately. Claire Ramsey is your replacement. Your access is revoked. Do not return. 12 years of grinding 80-hour weeks, billions in real estate deals. My entire identity as strategic director, gone in a 12-second email. My hands shook, but I kept my face stone cold, even as the cafe chatter droned on. I could have screamed, called him, demanded answers. Instead, I typed 3 words. I get it. And hit send.
Why?
Because in that gut punch moment, it was the only power I had left, to deny them the satisfaction of seeing me break. Coleman Property Tech wasn't just a company. It was my family's legacy, my life's work, built from late-night coding sessions and million-dollar pitches. And they ripped it away without a word. If this shocks you, drop a comment below. Where are you watching from? Smash that like button and subscribe to hear how I clawed my way back from this betrayal. Trust me, you'll want to stick around for the ending. It's wild. What kind of family does this? Why would my dad, my own flesh and blood, stab me in the back? And who's Claire Ramsey? The stranger now sitting in my office? I had no clue then, but the truth was uglier than I ever imagined. This isn't just my story. It's a warning about trust, loyalty, and what happens when the people closest to you turn out to be your worst enemies. Let's dive into how it all started and how I rebuilt from the ashes. That email from my dad, David Coleman, hit me like a freight train. You're fired. Don't return. Those words still burn, but to understand why they cut so deep, you need to know where I came from and what Coleman Property Tech meant to me. Growing up in Seattle, I didn't play with dolls, I played with code and blueprints. My earliest memory is at 5 years old, sitting on Dad's lap in his office, watching him tweak a property database on a clunky 90s computer. This is how we sell homes, Bella, he'd say, his eyes sparkling. Data tells the story. By 11, I was writing basic scripts to sort listings. By 14, I was shadowing him at open houses, soaking up every pitch. Coleman Property Tech wasn't just a business. It was my blood, my home, my future. Dad started the company 30 years ago with a laptop and a dream. Seattle was booming. And he saw a gap. Real estate needed tech to move faster, smarter. He built software that predicted market trends, streamlined sales, and gave agents an edge. Mom, Susan, handled the books early on. But she stepped back when my sister Lauren and I were born. Lauren, 2 years older, never cared for the grind like I did. She'd roll her eyes at Dad's late-night work rants, but I hung on every word. One day, this will be yours and Lauren's, he'd promise, pointing to the office logo. I believed him. Why wouldn't I? High school was a sprint to prove I belonged. I aced computer science, led the robotics team, and interned at a rival prop tech firm. College? I chose Georgetown for its top-tier business and tech program, graduating magna cum laude at 21. Google and Zillow came knocking with 6-figure offers, but I turned them down. I'm going home to Coleman, I told Dad over dinner. His proud smile said it all. I started as a junior developer, coding new features for our platform. No silver spoon here. I worked harder than anyone, pulling all-nighters to perfect our AI-driven analytics tool. By 25, I was leading the tech team, and by 29, I was strategic director. Under me, we tripled revenue to $2.5 billion, integrating augmented reality tours and sustainable urban projects. Our Green Horizon platform? My baby. It cut energy costs for eco-friendly homes by 25% and won us contracts with Seattle's biggest developers. We weren't just selling houses. We were shaping the future. But family dynamics? That's where it got messy. Dad was my hero, but he had a blind spot for Lauren. She coasted into marketing director with 0 qualifications, flashing charm but dropping balls left and right. Misleading ad campaigns, botched client events, you name it, I cleaned it up. She'll grow into it. Dad would shrug, while I bit my tongue. Mom stayed neutral, cheering my wins, but dodging business talk. You're too intense, Bella, she'd sigh, like passion was a flaw. Still, I thought we were a team. Dad always said, Coleman's a family legacy. I poured my soul into it, believing it was mine to carry forward. Looking back, there were cracks I missed. 6 months before that email, things shifted. Dad started skipping our strategy sessions, leaving Lauren to fill in. She'd push flashy, short-term deals over my long-term vision. Then Victor Ramsey showed up, a slick consultant Dad knew from college. He'd linger in Dad's office, whispering about new directions. I brushed it off as expansion talk, but unease crept in. Why was Lauren suddenly so cozy with Ramsey? Why did Mom avoid my questions about Dad's stress? I had no idea a storm was brewing, one that would wipe out everything I'd built. That email wasn't just a firing, it was a betrayal years in the making. Stick with me to hear how the ground started slipping under my feet, and how I didn't see the knife until it was in my back. That email from my dad, telling me I was fired from Coleman Property Tech, was like a bomb going off in my life. But the fuse had been lit long before I saw it spark. To understand how I missed the signs, let's rewind to 6 months earlier, when the ground beneath me started to shift. I was still strategic director, riding high on the success of our Green Horizon platform, which was landing us multi-million-dollar contracts across Seattle. A Coleman Property Tech was my world. 12 years of coding, pitching, and dreaming had made it a $2.5 billion empire. I thought my place in it was rock solid, just like the family legacy Dad always preached about. But cracks were forming, subtle at first, like hairline fractures in a foundation. I was too busy building to notice them widen. It started at our quarterly strategy meeting in September. I'd spent weeks prepping a pitch to expand Green Horizon, our AI-driven tool that slashed energy costs for eco-friendly homes. The numbers were airtight. Sustainable projects were pulling 20% higher margins than traditional ones, and clients like Seattle's top developers were eating it up. I fired up my slides, ready to lay out how we could scale to Portland and San Francisco. But Dad, usually glued to my presentations, kept glancing at his phone. Halfway through, he cut me off. "Let's table this for now, Bella," he said, voice clipped. "We've got other priorities." Other priorities? I blinked, caught off guard. He didn't elaborate, just moved on to budget reviews. My sister Lauren, lounging at the table, smirked as she scrolled her phone. I brushed it off. Maybe Dad was just stressed, but it stung. Green Horizon was my vision, the future of Coleman. Why was he shutting it down? That same week, I noticed Dad and Lauren having lunch together at the office cafe. Not unusual, they'd always been close, despite her half-hearted work as marketing director. But these lunches became daily, and they'd clam up when I walked by. "Just catching up," Dad would say, waving me off. Lauren would flash her perfect smile, but it didn't reach her eyes. I tried to shrug it off as paranoia. Lauren was sloppy. Sure, her ad campaigns were often over budget and under-delivered, but she wasn't strategic enough to scheme, right? Still, I couldn't shake the feeling I was being left out of something big. Then came Victor Ramsey. Dad introduced him at a staff meeting as a strategic consultant, some old college buddy with a silver mane and a handshake that lingered too long. "Victor's got 30 years in real estate tech," Dad said, beaming. "He'll help us navigate our next phase." Next phase? I was strategic director. Shouldn't I be leading that? I cornered Dad after. Why wasn't I looped in on this? I asked, keeping my voice even. He patted my shoulder like I was a kid. "Relax, Bella. Victor's just here to advise. You're still running the show." But his eyes wouldn't meet mine, and I left his office with a knot in my gut. Ramsey made himself at home fast. He'd prowl the office, poking into our codebase, grilling account managers about client deals, and scribbling notes he never shared. When I asked to see his reports, Dad said they were still in draft. Draft? For weeks? I started noticing small changes. My vetted AI vendor for Green Horizon was swapped for a pricier one with no explanation. A sustainable condo project I'd championed was quietly shelved. "Budget reallocation," Ramsey said when I pushed back, his smile all teeth. I ran the numbers myself. They didn't add up. I brought it to Dad, but he just nodded vaguely. "We're exploring options." "Bella, trust the process." Trust the process? I'd built that process. I was the one who coded our AI from scratch, who landed deals with developers like Marcus Lee, who put Coleman on the map as a prop tech leader. But suddenly, my voice didn't seem to matter. The final straw came at a client dinner I wasn't invited to. I'd spent months courting a major investor for our Portland expansion, and Dad promised I'd lead the pitch. Instead, I found out from a junior coder that Lauren and Ramsey hosted the dinner. With Dad's blessing, they signed a preliminary deal. Not for Green Horizon, but for a luxury estate platform I'd warned was a saturated market. When I confronted Lauren, she shrugged. "You were busy. Bella, we handled it." Handled it? The deal was a mess, with terms we couldn't deliver. I had to spend days untangling it, while Lauren took credit for the win. I started losing sleep, replaying every meeting, every dodged question. Why was Dad sidelining me? He'd always called me his rock star, the one who'd carry Coleman forward. Lauren, meanwhile, could barely manage an ad budget, yet she was suddenly Dad's right hand. And Ramsey, what was his endgame? He wasn't just advising, he was steering. I caught him once in Dad's office, showing him a spreadsheet titled Leadership Transition. My name wasn't on it. I froze outside the door, heart racing as Ramsey's voice drifted out. She's too focused on her pet projects, David. We need fresh blood. Pet projects? Green Horizon was our biggest asset. Who was he to decide what Coleman needed? Mom was no help. I called her one night, desperate for clarity. Is Dad okay? He's acting weird. She hesitated, then said, He's just tired, Bella. Don't push him. But her voice trembled, like she was holding back. What about you, Mom? Do you know something? I pressed. She changed the topic to her book club, her words clipped. I hung up, feeling like I'd hit another wall. My family was slipping away, and I didn't know why. By December, the isolation was suffocating. I'd walk into the office, my office, the one I'd poured my soul into, and feel like a stranger. Team members I'd hired started avoiding my gaze. My assistant, Ethan, pulled me aside one day, looking nervous. I shouldn't say this, he whispered, but Lauren and Ramsey are meeting daily when you're at client sites. They're talking about changes. Changes? My chest tightened. What kind, Ethan? He shook his head. I don't know, but it's big. Be careful, Bella. Careful? This was my company, my legacy. What did I need to be careful of? I didn't know it then, but I was standing on a fault line and the earthquake was coming. Those lunches, those meetings, Ramsey's smug grin. They weren't random. They were pieces of a puzzle I was too close to see. The empire I'd built was about to crumble, and the people I trusted most were holding the wrecking ball. Let's keep going to see how it all unraveled, and how I started to suspect the knife was already at my back. Those early warning signs at Coleman Property Tech, Dad's dismissive attitude, Lauren's secret lunches, Victor Ramsey's creeping influence, were like distant thunder. I felt the storm coming but didn't see it scale until it was nearly on top of me. By late December, 6 months before that devastating email from Dad, the cracks in my world were widening. I was still strategic director, pouring every ounce of myself into our $2.5 billion PropTech empire, believing I was securing our family's legacy. But the ground was shifting faster now, and the people I trusted most were orchestrating a betrayal I never saw coming. What started as unease was turning into dread, as I realized I wasn't just being sidelined, I was being erased. The first real blow came in January, during a pitch to a major Seattle developer, Horizon Ventures. I'd spent weeks crafting a proposal to integrate our Green Horizon AI platform into their eco-friendly condo project. A $50 million deal that could have cemented Coleman's leadership in sustainable real estate tech. I was set to lead the meeting, but the day before, Dad called me into his office. Lauren's taking point on this one, Bella, he said, barely looking up from his desk. You focus on the back end. I stared at him, stunned. Dad, this is my deal. I built the platform. Ran the numbers, he cut me off. It's a team effort. Lauren needs the exposure. Exposure? Lauren, who couldn't even explain how our AI worked, was pitching my vision? I swallowed my anger and nodded, but inside, I was reeling. That night, I barely slept, replaying his words. Why was he pushing me out of the spotlight? The meeting was a disaster. Lauren fumbled through my slides, misquoting data and dodging technical questions. Horizon CEO, visibly frustrated, emailed me afterward. Isabella, what's going on? We expected you. I had to spend days salvaging the deal, rewriting terms to keep them on board. When I brought it up to Dad, he shrugged. Mistakes happen. Lauren's learning. Learning? She'd cost us credibility. And he acted like it was nothing. Meanwhile, Lauren posted on LinkedIn, taking credit for securing the deal. My team whispered about it, but no one dared confront her. I felt like I was shouting into a void. Then came Victor Ramsey's next move. In February, he proposed a strategic pivot to focus on luxury estate platforms, claiming high-end clients wanted flashier tech over sustainability. I pushed back hard in a board meeting. Our data shows green projects are outpacing luxury by 15% in Seattle, I said, pulling up charts. This pivot risks alienating our core clients. Ramsey leaned back, smirking. Markets change, Isabella. We need to stay agile. Dad nodded along, ignoring my evidence. After the meeting, I found Ramsey and Lauren in the break room, laughing over coffee. They stopped when I walked in, but Lauren's smug glance said enough. I started to suspect Ramsey wasn't just advising, he was pulling strings, and Lauren was his puppet. The isolation grew suffocating. My assistant, Ethan, became my only ally. One evening, as we worked late on a client demo, he looked nervous. Bella, I overheard something, he said, lowering his voice. Ramsey and Lauren were in Dad's office, talking about a new leadership structure. They mentioned Claire Ramsey, Victor's daughter, as a fresh face for your role. My stomach dropped. Claire Ramsey? I'd never met her, but I knew she'd just graduated from some Ivy League MBA program with zero tech experience. My role? I asked, my voice tight. Ethan nodded. They showed her your office last week when you were at a site visit. Like she was already moving in. I felt the air leave my lungs. My office, the one with my awards, my Green Horizon prototype, my life's work, was being paraded like a prize. I confronted Dad the next day. "What's going on with Claire Ramsey?" I demanded. He looked startled, then waved it off. "Victor's just mentoring her. She's shadowing, not replacing anyone." But his fidgeting hands betrayed him. I pressed harder. "Ethan saw her in my office. Why wasn't I told?" Dad's face hardened. "You're overreacting, Bella. Focus on your job." My job? I'd built half the company's tech from scratch. I left his office shaking. Not from fear, but from fury. This wasn't a misunderstanding, it was a plan. The final gut punch came at our family's monthly Sunday dinner. Mom's lasagna was on the table, but the mood was tense. I tried to bring up work, hoping to get through to Dad. But Lauren kept steering the conversation to her big wins in marketing. Then, out of nowhere, Mom spoke up. "Bella, maybe you should trust Victor's expertise. He's been in this game longer than you." I froze, fork halfway to my mouth. Mom, who'd always stayed out of business, was siding with Ramsey? "Mom, you don't even know what he's proposing," I said, my voice sharp. She looked away, twisting her napkin. Dad jumped in. "Enough, Bella. We're a family. Act like it." Family? I felt like an outsider in my own home. After dinner, I pulled Mom aside in the kitchen. "What's really going on? Why are you backing Ramsey?" She hesitated, eyes darting to the dining room where Dad and Lauren were laughing. "Your dad's under pressure, Bella," she whispered. "Victor's helping him with financial stuff. Just don't rock the boat." "Financial stuff?" Our books were solid. I'd reviewed them myself. But her fear was palpable, and it chilled me. I left that night with a sinking feeling. My family wasn't just drifting apart. They were closing ranks against me. By March, the exclusion was blatant. I was left off emails for key client meetings. A software update I designed was rolled back without my input, replaced with a clunky luxury-focused interface Ramsey pushed. My team started reporting to Lauren, who relayed Dad's orders. I'd walk into the office, my office, and find Ramsey's notes on my desk, as if he owned the place. "Ethan slipped me a bombshell one day. They're interviewing Claire for your job." I saw her resume in Dad's office. I felt like I'd been slapped. Claire wasn't shadowing. She was being groomed to replace me. Every night, I'd lie awake, piecing it together. Ramsey's pivot, Lauren's sudden confidence, Dad's distance, Mom's cryptic warnings. It was a coordinated effort. But why? I was the one driving Coleman's growth, landing deals, building tech that competitors envied. Why would my own family turn on me? I didn't have answers yet, but the betrayal was taking shape, sharp and cold. The empire I'd poured my soul into was slipping away. And the knife was already at my back. Let's keep going to see how it all came crashing down and how I faced the moment that changed everything. The betrayal at Coleman Property Tech wasn't a single blow. It was a slow, calculated squeeze, tightening over months. Victor Ramsey's takeover, Lauren's smug alliances. My parents' eerie silence. They'd all been chipping away at my place in the family empire. By April, I was barely holding on, fighting to keep my voice heard as strategic director, while the ground crumbled beneath me. I'd seen the signs, secret meetings, my projects gutted, Claire Ramsey being groomed to steal my role. But nothing could have prepared me for the moment it all collapsed. That email from my dad wasn't just a firing, it was the end of everything I'd built, and my response, "I get it," was the only armor I had left. April 12th started like any other Tuesday in Seattle. Rain tapped against my office window as I prepped for a pitch to Greenwave developers. A $75 million deal to roll out Green Horizon AI across their eco-housing portfolio. I'd spent weeks refining the demo, coding late into the night to showcase how our tech could cut their energy costs by 30%. This was my shot to prove Green Horizon, and I, were still the heart of Coleman Property Tech. The meeting went better than I'd hoped. Greenwave CEO, Marcus Lee, leaned forward, eyes lit up. "Isabella, this is game-changing. You're the reason we're signing with Coleman." We shook hands, and I felt a rare spark of triumph. After months of being sidelined, I'd landed a win. I called Dad to share the news, but it went to voicemail. "Big deal closed," I said, grinning. "Call me back." To celebrate, I stopped at my favorite cafe, the Daily Grind, just blocks from our office. The place was alive with mid-morning chatter, baristas steaming milk, laptops humming. I ordered a double latte and settled at a corner table, pulling out my laptop to tweak the contract. My phone buzzed. Dad's name flashed on the screen. Finally, I thought, smiling as I answered. But it went straight to voicemail. Oh. Then a notification popped up, new email. Subject, your role at Coleman Property Tech. My stomach twisted. I opened it, and the world stopped. "Isabella, It read, in Dad's formal tone, "The board terminated your role effective immediately. Claire Ramsey is your replacement. Your access is revoked. Do not return to the office. Your personal items will be delivered. This decision is final." 12 words that gutted 12 years of my life. No explanation, no goodbye, just a cold, corporate execution. I read it again. Then a third time, as if the words might rearrange themselves. My hands trembled, gripping the phone so hard my knuckles whitened. Around me, people laughed, sipped coffee, lived their normal lives while mine imploded. Marcus Lee's praise echoed in my head. "You're the reason we're signing." Now a cruel joke. I'd just closed a $75 million deal, and they fired me? My chest tightened, like a fist was squeezing my heart. I wanted to scream, to call Dad and demand answers, to storm the office and make a scene. But I sat frozen, the email's words searing into me. Claire Ramsey, Victor's daughter, was in my office now. My office, with my Green Horizon prototype, my awards, my code, and Dad, my hero, the man who'd promised me the company, had signed off on this? The betrayal wasn't just professional, it was personal, a knife driven by the hands I trusted most. I could have begged. I could have raged. Instead, I opened a reply and typed 3 words. "I get it." I stared at them, my vision blurring. Why those words? Because they were my shield. I wouldn't give Dad, Lauren, or Ramsey the satisfaction of seeing me crumble. I wouldn't let them know they'd broken me. I hit send, and a strange calm settled over me, like I'd reclaimed a sliver of power in a moment of total loss. But the calm didn't last. My phone buzzed again. Access denied on our company portal. I tried my corporate credit card to pay for the latte, declined. My key fob wouldn't open the office door when I tested it later. In hours. They'd erased me from Coleman Property Tech like I'd never existed. I left the cafe, latte untouched, and walked into the Seattle rain. My mind raced, replaying every meeting, every dodged question. How had I missed this? Ramsey's consulting, Lauren's sudden confidence, Dad's distance. It wasn't random. It was a coup, and I'd been too busy building their empire to see it. I drove aimlessly, passing projects I'd shaped, the eco-condos on Pike Street, the AI-optimized listings in Capitol Hill. Each was a monument to my work, now mocking my exile. My phone stayed silent, no calls from Mom. No texts from Lauren, no apologies. Just that email, and my "I get it" floating in the void. By evening, I was back at my apartment, a sleek downtown loft I'd bought with my Coleman bonuses. It felt alien now. The framed company logo on my shelf, the laptop sticker reading code like a Coleman. They were relics of a life that no longer existed. I poured a glass of wine and sat on my balcony, watching Seattle's lights flicker on. The city I'd helped build felt like a stranger. I checked my phone again, half hoping it was a mistake. Nothing. The pain hit then, raw and unrelenting. I'd given everything to Coleman, my youth, my dreams, my trust, and they discarded me like a bug in their code. 2 days later, a delivery arrived. 4 cardboard boxes, dumped at my building's lobby. Inside were the scraps of my career, my awards, cracked and tossed in carelessly. My Green Horizon prototype, its screen shattered. A potted plant I'd kept alive for years, now wilted. At the bottom, a legal document, a severance agreement, offering 3 months' pay if I signed away all claims against Coleman. A post-it note in Dad's handwriting read, "Sign and return." No, sorry. No, Bella. Just another order. I let the paper fall, my hands shaking. What do you say when your family doesn't just fire you, but obliterates you? I didn't cry, not yet. I picked up my phone, reread my reply, "I get it," and felt a flicker of defiance. They'd taken my job, my legacy, my trust. But they hadn't taken me. Not yet. The storm had hit, and I was in its wreckage. But the worst was still coming. Secrets uglier than I could have imagined. And a fight I didn't know I had in me. Let's keep going to see how I hit rock bottom and what it took to start clawing my way back. That email from my dad, firing me from Coleman Property Tech, was a guillotine. "You're fired. Claire Ramsey is your replacement." In seconds, 12 years of my life, coding, pitching, building a $2.5 billion empire, were erased. My reply, "I get it," was my last act of defiance before the world caved in. I'd walked out of that Seattle cafe into the rain, numb but upright. But the days that followed dragged me to a place I'd never known. Rock bottom. The betrayal wasn't just losing my job, it was losing my family, my identity, and every anchor I'd ever had. The next morning, I woke up reaching for my phone to check work emails. Muscle memory from a life that no longer existed. Reality hit like a punch. I was out. I tried logging into Coleman's portal. Access denied. My company credit card was dead when I tried to buy coffee. My office key fob? Useless. They hadn't just fired me. They'd surgically removed me from the company I'd built. My phone buzzed with texts from confused clients. Marcus Lee. From the Greenwave deal I'd closed hours before the email wrote, Isabella, what's this about you leaving? I stared at the screen, fingers frozen. What could I say? That my dad had fired me via email? That I had no answers? I called Mom, hoping for some shred of explanation. Straight to voicemail. I tried Dad, Lauren, nothing. It was like I'd died, and they'd skipped the funeral. By day 3, the silence was deafening. I texted Ethan, my assistant, begging for intel. He met me at a diner across town, looking like he'd seen a ghost. They made us sign NDAs, he whispered. Lauren announced you chose to leave for personal reasons. Claire's in your office, dismantling Green Horizon. Dismantling it? My AI platform. The heart of our growth was being scrapped. Ethan hesitated, then added, they're spreading rumors you mismanaged deals, Bella. Clients are asking questions. My stomach churned. They weren't just erasing me, they were poisoning my name. On day 5, the boxes arrived, 4 battered cartons of my office life. My awards cracked. My Green Horizon prototype, smashed. A severance agreement with Dad's cold note. Sign and return. I sank to my apartment floor, surrounded by the wreckage of my career. I hadn't cried yet, but the weight was crushing. I'd given Coleman everything, my 20s, my passion, my trust, and they'd thrown me out like trash. My phone stayed silent. No apologies, no treats. Just me, alone, in a city I'd helped shape. I drove past our Pike Street condos that night, projects I'd coded and pitched. They stood tall, mocking me. My savings were solid, but my soul wasn't. Who was I without Coleman? The question haunted me as I sat on my balcony, Seattle's lights blurring through tears I finally let fall. The empire I'd built was gone, and my family had wielded the axe. But in that darkness, a spark flickered. I hadn't broken yet. Let's see how I started to uncover the truth behind their betrayal, and what it took to rise from the ashes. Rock bottom was a cold, lonely place. That email from my dad, firing me from Coleman Property Tech, had stripped away my job, my legacy, and my family in one brutal swipe. I get it, I'd replied, clinging to my last shred of dignity. Days later, surrounded by broken awards and a wilted plant in my Seattle apartment, I was a ghost in my own life. Clients texted, confused. Colleagues whispered rumors that I'd mismanaged deals. My family, Dad, Mom, Lauren, went radio silent. But in that suffocating darkness, a fire sparked. I needed answers. Why had they betrayed me? The truth, when I found it, was uglier than I'd imagined. And it came from the people I least expected. I started digging on day 6. Ethan, my assistant, had risked his job to tell me Claire Ramsey was dismantling my Green Horizon platform and that Lauren was spreading lies about my work. I texted him again, pleading for more. He hesitated but sent a screenshot of an internal memo. Coleman was pivoting to luxury estate tech, Victor Ramsey's brainchild, with Claire as strategic director. My platform, the one driving 20% of our growth, was labeled non-priority. Rage replaced despair. This wasn't a firing, it was a coup. But why me? I called Mom again, desperate for a crack in their wall of silence. This time, she picked up. Bella, I can't talk long, she whispered, voice trembling. Meet me tomorrow. Alone. We met at a quiet cafe far from Coleman's downtown office. Mom looked worn, her eyes darting like she was scared of being seen. I'm sorry, Bella, she said, clutching her coffee. This wasn't supposed to happen. I leaned in, heart pounding. Then why did it? Why did Dad fire me? She glanced away, then spilled the truth. Victor Ramsey had wormed into Dad's head, showing him doctored emails, supposedly from me, planning to spin off Green Horizon into my own company. He said you were plotting a takeover, Mom said, her voice breaking. Lauren backed him up. Gave him evidence of your disloyalty. Evidence? I was speechless. Those late-night strategy sessions, my pitches to scale Green Horizon, they'd been twisted into proof of betrayal. Lauren? I choked out. Mom nodded. She's always envied your success. Ramsey promised her control of marketing if she helped push you out. My sister, who I'd covered for countless times, had sold me out for a power grab. And Ramsey? He'd used Dad's fear of losing control, whispering that my sustainable focus was tanking the company. The kicker, Coleman was in debt, $10 million. Hidden from me, tied to a failed luxury project Ramsey had pushed years ago. Dad thought Claire could fix it, Mom said. Claire, with her shiny MBA and zero tech chops, was Ramsey's pawn to secure his grip. I left the cafe numb, but awake. This wasn't random, it was a calculated takedown. Lauren's jealousy, Ramsey's greed, Dad's blind trust. They'd woven a web to trap me. I dug deeper, calling a friend at a rival firm. Word is, Ramsey's angling to sell Coleman to a conglomerate, she said. Your green tech was in the way. The pieces clicked. They hadn't just fired me. They'd erased me to cash out. But knowing the truth didn't ease the pain. It sharpened it. My family had chosen lies over me. Let's see how I faced the wreckage and found a way to rebuild. The truth about my family's betrayal cut deeper than that email from Dad ever could. Victor Ramsey's lies, Lauren's jealousy, and Dad's blind trust had orchestrated my ousting from Coleman Property Tech, a $2.5 billion empire I'd helped build. My mom's confession in that Seattle cafe laid it bare. Fake emails framed me as a traitor, and a hidden $10 million debt fueled their panic. My I get it reply to Dad's firing had been my last stand. But the days after left me in ruins, boxed up awards, a trashed reputation, and a family that ghosted me. I'd hit rock bottom, but something inside refused to break. In the wreckage, I found a spark. I wasn't done. I'd build again, not for them, but for me. This is how I rose from the ashes with Next Wave Analytics. 2 weeks after the email, I was still a shell, staring at Seattle's skyline from my apartment balcony, the city I'd shaped now feeling like a stranger. My savings were solid, but my confidence was in tatters. Who was I without Coleman? The question gnawed at me, but a call from Marcus Lee, the Greenwave Developers CEO I'd pitched before my firing, shifted everything. Isabella, I don't buy the rumors, he said. Your Green Horizon demo was brilliant. We're building a sustainable housing project in North Seattle, low budget, high impact. Want to consult? My heart raced. Consult? My non-compete barred me from working with Coleman clients, but this was a new project, a clean slate. I'm in, I said, voice cracking with hope. That call was my lifeline. I threw myself into research, sketching out ways to integrate AI-driven energy analytics into Marcus's project without breaking the bank. But I needed more than a gig. I needed a purpose. One sleepless night, I sat at my kitchen table, laptop glowing, and typed NextWave Analytics into a business name search. It felt right, a nod to my tech roots, a promise of forward motion. By dawn, I'd register the company, paid $200 for a basic website, and ordered business cards. Isabella Coleman, founder. Each step, small as it was, stitched back a piece of my shattered self. I wasn't just consulting, I was rebuilding. Marcus's project became my proving ground. The site was a muddy lot in Ballard, zoned for 50 affordable, eco-friendly units. The budget was tight, $5 million, but I saw potential. I designed a lean AI tool to optimize solar panel placement, cutting energy costs by 22%. I sourced recycled materials from local suppliers, slashing expenses by 10%. Every day, I'd visit the site, trading my Coleman blazers for a hard hat, crunching numbers with contractors. It felt raw, real, like coding my first app at 15. For the first time in months, I wasn't fighting to prove my worth. I was creating it. The project wrapped in 6 months, under budget and ahead of schedule. At the ribbon cutting, the community board beamed as families toured units with solar-powered lights and rainwater systems. A board member shook my hand. Isabella, you made the impossible work. My chest swelled, not with Coleman's borrowed pride, but with something new, mine. Then came the shock. NextWave Analytics was nominated for the Washington Sustainable Tech Award. I'd built this from nothing, and it was being recognized. The awards gala was in a glittering Seattle ballroom. I wore a simple black dress, my NextWave card tucked in my purse. When they called my name as the winner, the applause hit like a wave. I walked to the stage, gripping the glass trophy, and scanned the crowd.
No Ded, no Lauren, no Coleman logo.
Just me, standing tall. In my speech, I thanked Marcus for his trust and the community for their vision. This is for anyone who's had to start over, I said, voice steady. You're stronger than you know. Back home, I set the trophy on my shelf, next to the cracked Coleman awards I hadn't thrown out. They didn't define me anymore. NextWave was small, $200,000 in revenue, one client, but it was mine. I'd hired a junior coder and was eyeing a second project. The non-compete still loomed, but I was free in a way I'd never been at Coleman. The pain of betrayal hadn't vanished, but it wasn't my cage. I was building a new foundation, line by line, brick by brick. Let's see how I faced my family again and what it took to find peace in the ruins. Winning the Washington Sustainable Tech Award for NextWave Analytics was my first taste of victory since that gut-wrenching email from Dad, firing me from Coleman Property Tech. I'd clawed my way back, building a new company from the ashes of betrayal. Victor Ramsey's lies, Lauren's jealousy, and Dad's blind trust had cost me my role in our $2.5 billion empire. But I'd proven I didn't need their name to shine. Yet, even as I stood tall with my trophy, a void lingered. My family, Dad, Mom, Lauren, remained a wound I couldn't ignore. Mom's confession about Ramsey's fake emails and Coleman's hidden debt had explained the why, but it didn't heal the how could you. Then, a call came that forced me to face the man who'd broken me. 3 months after the awards, my phone lit up late one night. Mom's name. I hesitated, expecting another cryptic apology, but her voice was frantic. Bella, your dad's in the hospital. Heart attack.
He's asking for you.
My breath caught. Dad, the titan who'd built Coleman, now fragile? Despite everything, the email, the silence, the lies, he was still my father. I drove to Virginia Mason Hospital, Seattle's lights blurring past, my mind a tangle of anger and fear. Could I face him? Did I even want to? In the dim hospital room, Dad looked small, wires snaking from his chest. Mom sat beside him, eyes red. Lauren was absent, no surprise. Dad's gaze met mine, heavy with something I hadn't seen before, shame. Bella, he rasped, you came? I nodded, throat tight. Mom said you ask. He coughed, and Mom helped him sip water. Then, haltingly, he spoke. I did something unforgivable. I let Ramsey twist my fears. Losing the company. Losing control. He showed me those emails, said you were stealing Green Horizon. I believed him. His voice cracked. I was wrong. I stood frozen. The pain of that email, you're fired, surging back. You didn't even ask me, Dad. You chose a stranger over your daughter. He looked away, hands trembling. I was scared. Coleman was all I had. Ramsey said Claire could save us from the debt. Lauren pushed it too. Lauren. Of course. My sister's jealousy had fueled the fire. I wanted to scream, but his frailty stopped me. You erased me, I said, voice low. My work, my name, gone. He nodded, eyes wet. I see it now. Coleman's falling apart without you.
And
I lost my daughter. The words hit hard, but they didn't erase the scars. I didn't offer absolution. I've built Next Wave Analytics, I said. I'm not coming back. He gave a faint smile, tinged with pride. I heard. You're doing what I couldn't. Building something new. We talked for an hour. Not just about Coleman, but about fear, trust, and the legacy he'd clung to at my expense. It wasn't a full reconciliation. Too much had been broken, but it was a start, a fragile bridge over a chasm. As I left, he said, that I get it you sent, it haunted me. You didn't beg. You were stronger than me. I paused at the door. It wasn't strength, Dad. It was survival. I walked out, heart heavy but lighter than before. The wound was still there, but it wasn't bleeding anymore. Let's see how I faced one final battle to reclaim my truth, and what it meant to truly start over. Facing Dad in that hospital room, his frail apology for firing me from Coleman Property Tech was a step toward closure, but the scar of betrayal still burned. Victor Ramsey's lies, fake emails painting me as a traitor, had fueled my ousting, with Lauren's jealousy as kindling. I'd built Next Wave Analytics from nothing, proving my worth. But Ramsey's shadow loomed. At the Seattle PropTech Summit, I saw my chance to end it. On stage, heart pounding, I presented my Next Wave work, then pivoted. This industry thrives on trust, I said, projecting doctored emails Ramsey used against me. Victor Ramsey framed me to seize Coleman Property Tech. The crowd gasped. Ramsey, in the front row, went pale. I showed his shady contracts, tying him to Coleman's $10 million debt. Partners stood, glaring at him. Claire, his daughter, slipped out, fired that night. Ramsey left, disgraced, his influence shattered. The applause was deafening. Firms lined up to collaborate with NextWave. I'd reclaimed my truth, not with vengeance, but with facts. The victory wasn't just mine, it was for anyone betrayed. Let's see how I faced one last test, saving Coleman without losing myself. Exposing Victor Ramsey at the Seattle PropTech Summit freed me from his lies, restoring my reputation and boosting NextWave Analytics. But Coleman Property Tech, the family empire I'd been fired from, still haunted me. Weeks later, Mom called, voice shaking.
Bella.
Coleman's collapsing. Lawsuits from Ramsey's failed luxury project. We're $15 million in debt. Please help. My heart clenched. Despite Dad's betrayal, Coleman was my past. I agreed to consult, not join. Through NextWave, I analyzed their mess. Ramsey's project, over budget estates, violated permits and bled cash. I proposed a pivot. Rezone for sustainable condos. Using my AI to optimize costs. I worked nights, recoding their platform, slashing $5 million in losses. In 6 months, Coleman stabilized, regaining client trust. Dad offered me my old role. This is your empire, he said. I shook my head. It's yours. I've built mine. Walking the revamped Coleman site, I saw my work, solar panels, green roofs, but felt no pull to return. NextWave was my future. Saving Coleman wasn't about reclaiming a legacy. It was proving I could rise above their betrayal. Let's see how I found my true path and what it taught me about rebuilding. Saving Coleman Property Tech from collapse, without rejoining it, was my final act of proving I'd outgrown their betrayal. Exposing Victor Ramsey's lies at the Seattle PropTech Summit had cleared my name, and building NextWave Analytics had given me a new empire. One I'd coded from scratch after that devastating email from Dad. "You're fired." My "I get it" reply wasn't surrender. It was the first line of a new story. Standing on a NextWave project site in Seattle, hard hat on, I saw more than sustainable condos. I saw my resilience. But this journey wasn't just about me. It's about what we all do when life burns us down. That email stole my family's $2.5 billion legacy, my identity, my trust. Dad's blind faith in Ramsey, Lauren's jealousy. Mom's silence, they gutted me. I hit rock bottom, surrounded by broken awards, my name slandered. Yet, in that darkness, I found strength I didn't know I had. NextWave started with a $200 website and a single client, Marcus Lee. Today, it's a growing force, with a Washington Sustainable Tech Award and contracts piling up. Facing Dad in his hospital bed. Hearing his regret didn't erase the pain, but it freed me to let go. Saving Coleman proved I could rise above their mistakes, but NextWave proved I could build something better, something mine. Here's the truth. Sometimes, being broken forces you to build something unbreakable. That email wasn't the end. It was my beginning. I learned that your worth isn't tied to what others take. It's in what you create. When betrayal hits, don't cling to the ruins. Start small like I did with a business name and a cheap domain. Take one step, then another. Write down one goal you've been scared to chase, a new job, a side hustle, a dream, and do one thing toward it this week. Call a contact, draft a plan, learn a skill. Those steps build a foundation stronger than the one you lost. This isn't just my story, it's yours too. If you've ever been betrayed, fired, or lost something you thought defined you, know this. You're not done. The pain is real, but so is your power to rebuild. I walked away from Coleman's empire to create NextWave, not because I had to, but because I chose to. You can choose too. What's your next step? Share in the comments. I want to hear how you're starting over. If this story hit you, pass it to someone who needs to know they can rise from ashes. Looking out at my team in NextWave hard hats, I'm grateful for that email. It shattered me, but it also set me free. Free to build without family baggage. Free to code my own path. Free to discover I was enough. I get it wasn't just a reply, it was a promise to myself. I understood my value, my strength, my future. Life's toughest blows don't define you. What you build next does. Let's keep building one brave step at a time.